My name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Eric Haines. Eric is a highly accomplished 3D graphics programmer who resides in Somerville. He's here today to inform us about a very engaging and informative initiative he's been involved with called the Somerville Sights map, an online resource that features historical, recreational, artistic, and certified Atlas Obscura sites, as well as many other noteworthy locations throughout Somerville. During the program, we're finding out why and how the Somerville Sights map came about and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. We'll go on a behind-the-scenes tour and in the process come to better understand and appreciate the wide range of interesting sites that are highlighted and what you can look forward to seeing and learning about. Let's start by meeting Eric. Welcome. So delighted you're able to be here.
Glad I could make it. Thanks.
I was quite intrigued when I first heard about the Somerville Sights map, eager to hear more and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if you just share a little bit about your background and professional interest, please.
Yes, I've been a programmer since being a nerd in high school in the 70s, and basically then I got into computer graphics in the 80s, and never changed since then. Basically, I've been doing computer graphics for a very long time, and now I currently work for NVIDIA, which if you're a video game person, you know NVIDIA because they make computer graphics chips to speed up computer graphics. And they also make the chips. The chips also accelerate things like artificial intelligence, deep learning networks, and things like that.
Interesting. How did the Somerville Sights map first come about? What was your inspiration, motivation for starting this initiative?
Yeah, it's nothing I particularly planned on, but sort of a few different threads in my life kind of came together and said, why don't you do this? One thread was COVID, was simply that, well, what's there to do during COVID? Well, walk outside. That's about what you could do. There wasn't a lot going on, and museums or wherever. You couldn't really go to movies, all that kind of stuff. So my wife and I did a lot of walking, and I took pictures along the way, and I'd show them to friends and so on. The other thing that happened was a person who had been keeping a map up to date, they moved out of town. This person named Cami Ford, they had been doing a map of all the Little Free Library boxes in Somerville, Cambridge, Medford, and Arlington. And they were moving out, and I was like, "Hey, I'll take it over. That that looks like a fun project. That's a good summer. I'll go visit all the boxes and verify that they're there and all that kind of stuff." I didn't really know what I was getting into. It turns out there's about 200 boxes, and we also map micro pantries and community fridges, and so I've now visited them all as far as I know, and my joke is that they call Arlington Heights for a reason. It's a killer bike ride, I'll tell you. But anyway, that sort of got me into this whole idea of mapping, because it turns out like Google. I'm not trying to advertise Google here, but they've done a really nice thing of offering this thing called My Maps. Anybody, you can just Google for My Maps, and it'll turn up this site where it'll say, "Hey, you can create your own map and put whatever you want on it." And so that was exciting to me. So I was able to, use this My Maps thing for the book boxes, and then I made another one for just like farmers markets in the areas, just as sort of a thing to play with. Somerville 311, Somerville government actually puts a lot of data on their site that's downloadable and that you can load into Google Maps, so you can see where where's, for example, who's been shoveling their sidewalks and who hasn't. Just are there spots in the city that have various kinds of problems? Where are the potholes? Where are the, what's getting fixed and so on. And so all those things sort of led me to say, hey, what else could I do? I kind of finished with the book boxes, and I said, all right, what's next? And I realized, actually the Somerville Arts Council had made a map two people had made a map about 12 years ago of like all the little things in Somerville that they saw and were like, hey, that's artistic, or that's cool, or, you know, whatever. And they just put it on their map. And so that map had kind of, it's not neglected exactly, but it kind of run down. Like, you know, there are sites that are there are places that were out of date, and anyway, and so on and so forth. But it gave me a place to start. Like I could go start walking around and start to look at things. And there's also the Atlas Obscura map, which has like about maybe a dozen things for Somerville, you know, of cool things to go check out. So between those two, I sort of said, well, I'll go start checking those out. And then I finally dawned on me, well, I could just make my own map. So that's the long version. Oh, and the last thread is actually that in addition to there being nothing to do during COVID, my doctor's also like, yeah, you need, you know, you're a sedentary programmer type that's sitting in front of your computer. You need to get out and take more walks. So, so that was an additional incentive.
Terrific, terrific. Extra health bonus. How did you go about compiling the sites? Did you have any plan in mind? Did you just start out walking and bumping into things and saying that would be kind of nice to have on the map?
Yeah, I've lived in Somerville for about a decade now, and yeah, it's mostly like I say, you know, prior to this, we'd walk around and we'd take pictures of things that we thought were interesting to look at and cool. And so I realized, yeah, I could go through that collection and start just plugging them onto a map and let's just see what happens. You know, is there, I kind of joke about this map of like, it's, you know, it's a solution in search of a problem, because for me, it's just an excuse to like go explore things. And really the map is just my way of kind of half of it's just for the fun of, hey, you know, let's make a map and share it with everybody, and, you know, hopefully people will enjoy it. It's also just for my own sake of like, oh yeah, I haven't checked that out, or oh, I should go look for that, or, you know, oh, I, you know, haven't been there in a while, I should see what's going on there. So it's yeah, anyway, I don't really have a great purpose in this map, and I think I like it because of that. There's no, you know, commercial interest, or I'm not going to monetize it or anything like that. It's just, oh, here's something I could do. And it's sort of, for me, the thing that I like offering it to the community is just, you know, A, go out there and check out things, or B, it's like, I was walking and I saw this big K carved into stone in front of a building. What's that about? You can go look up on the map and say, oh, hey, what do you know? That was the, you know, Kemp's Nuts factory, you know, back in the day. You know, and so for me, this is kind of like an augmented reality map in a way. It's sort of it's basically just saying, oh, I'm walking around, I could look at this map and say, hey, I'm looking at something, you know, maybe it's on the map and I can learn more about it.
Well, it's definitely caught the attention of many, many people, thousands and thousands. About how many have accessed the site so far?
Well, I can actually go stare over here at the website, and it says, as of today, 104,655 views.
Wow.
So, you know, that's not separate people, obviously, but, you know, I guess there's, you know, it's nice to see that a bunch of people are accessing it and probably coming back and, you know, accessing it again and again. And that for me is actually, in a way, the payoff is that people will write me and say, oh, you know, there's this really cool thing you should check out on such and such street. You know, I saw this, you know, this will, I think you'll be entertained, and, you know, I won't even show you. Like one guy just said, oh, I'm going to tell you about these 3 things. I'm not going to show you a picture or anything. It's just, you know, put it on your list of things to check out. And I was like, perfect. You know, it's like a new little quests, you know, it's a little game basically for me to have an excuse to go out and explore.
Well, since you have the map and the site handy, would you please share it with us and talk about it and do a little exploring?
Right. So let's see if this all works properly. Okay, looks good. Should be loading up. All right, so this is the place. This is what you'll see if you go to this URL, which I'm sure you'll provide in the show notes or whatever. It's just bit.ly/somesights, and you come to this map, and you can, you know, zoom in and out with your scroll and so on, and you can search on things. You can, you know, if you want to find out like, you know, like a famous thing in Somerville is the knot art. And so I have a few knot art things listed for knot art, where, you know, some person went around and labeled it, put graffiti saying this is knot art, essentially knot art on everything. So you could look for things if you're like, oh, gee, you know, I want to find those kinds of sites. So there's a searcher. You can also just, you know, go to some place and click and say, well, what's that? Oh, okay, that's the such and so house, and there'll be information about it. and maybe a link to some Wikipedia page, or more information about it, basically. And so that's sort of my goal, is to like give you a picture of something just so you know what you're looking for, and also just the ability to find more about that and see what you're seeing. Like, I think that knowledge adds to, at least it adds to my enjoyment to know what I'm looking at. It's not just a mystery. So as an example, actually, one other thing I wanted to show was just how it works on a phone. Is that this works on a phone? No surprise. And there's kind of a funny thing with Google Maps on my iPhone, and I haven't quite figured out why they do this, but I wanted to tip people off that's watching that you get to get the pro tip on how to get the most out of the map, which is if you just go to the site and click on it and so on. If you go to, this URL, you'll come up and you'll say, okay, you could search on something and find the koi pond, which I'll talk about more in a minute. But the deal with that is that this koi pond entry, it has a click here and you click on it and so on, but it's really sort of hard to see, well, where's this whole list of objects over here? Which I'll get back to in a second, but there's a whole list of all the things on the map over here, and you can scroll through it. Well, here you can't really see it at all. So what you would do on the phone is you click on legend, and that'll bring up the legend. It'll bring up this whole list. And this whole list is actually kind of handy. Like if you're like, well, you know what, I really don't care about, I don't want to see the parks. I don't want to see the list of parks and recreational facilities. So you can just do that, and it'll make them disappear. Oh, I don't want to see historical. I don't want to see the handsome houses. This is an eclectic map. I just put categories that I like, things that I enjoy. And so you can see that's sort of shown less of the map now, or shown, fewer icons, which helps you be able to focus on what you actually want to see if there are particular elements that you're interested in. So anyway, that's just my tip, is that you can toggle those on and off and be able to, focus on what you want to see. So the other pro tip here is that if you're on your phone, if you're on your iPhone, I'm not quite sure how it works on Android, but there's this little white square in the upper right-hand corner. And if you click on that square, what you do is you actually then bring this map, which is just on a web page, on a browser, you'll bring it into Google Maps itself. And the advantage of that is just that you can see sort of bigger images and get fuller descriptions when you click on something. So like this koi pond, you'll see a little thing down here. And if you clicked on koi pond at the bottom, that would scroll up and you get a bigger picture, and basically you can get more information and so on. So it's just it's an oddity. I haven't quite figured out why Google Maps does this, but it's just a little tip. Anyway, with that in mind, you now know just about everything I know about Google My Maps. Honestly, it's easy to it's easy to use, and I recommend if you want to make a map of something, go do it. There's all kinds of maps, and people have made maps of all the public access, free to access bathrooms in the Boston area. That's very handy. There's maps of things like there's a whole map site called fallingfruit.org, which will show you trees that have fruit that fall onto public property. So if you're into, finding some apples and cleaning with a little bleach and making some applesauce or something, here's your chance. You get to be the urban forager. So there's just a lot of cool things like that. And I really try to point those out on any of my entries in the map. Like if I go and, if you go somewhere and click on something, I may point you at, oh, well, by going to that, there's another map you could go to, or there's there's more information about this, that, or the other thing. And I've tried to make this almost like a treasure hunt, where if you go to a place, or if you even just click on a place, you can often find another map. Like there's a whole map of, or not a map, but there's a whole collection of all the sort of Virgin Mary and saint statues and so on, the shrines, like in front of people's houses. One of the librarians actually did this years ago. She walked all of Somerville and took, every picture she could of all of these. And there's this whole, long, big collection of them. So there's just fascinating things that, other people have added over the years about Somerville. And I really try to push that now, it's like, say, hey, there's, but wait, there's more. Anyway, if you want, I can go through some pictures of some of the things I think are
most definitely
cool.
Love to see a range of items from different categories, please.
Okay. Well, this is one that, okay, whoops. Oh, there we go. This is the koi pond, which is a real gem. It's just off the community path, actually. It's just, it's near Davis Square. a lot of people know where it is. Other people are like, there's what? There's a koi pond? And this thing's massive. I mean, I think it's like 20 feet by 20 feet, square feet, or 20 feet each dimension. And yeah, just full of koi. And there's a guy that takes care of it, and he tends to any of the koi that gets sick and so on. And, just a good guy. And this is just his sort of gift to the community, really. He's not doing it for pay or anything. It's just he really enjoys keeping these things up and having people come by and enjoy them. So that's one where on my particular picture, you can find out where it is, like by just doing this kind of thing and then going. And so if you if you zoom in on this, if you want to go there, this is where it is. Like there's the community path, and there's this sort of, I think they're condos or something, the Davis Square lofts. And so you can just leave the path and come on over it on Howard Street, and it's at about 20 to 50 Howard Street, right in there. You can go visit the koi. So that's one of my favorites, really. It's just
that's terrific. I mean, so user friendly. That's fabulous.
Yeah. So that's just this right. This is one way to get to it. Anyway. So just to talk about some of the other ones, this is one from the Somerville Arts Council map, which I really appreciated that they put this on the map, which was, they talked about Irving Street, and they said, well, there was, I guess, a woman, Karen Edlund, who I think made mosaics. I don't really know all that much about the background here, but basically all along Irving Street, you'll find just tons of these mosaics, just sitting in people's yards. And it's just it's a great treasure hunt to just walk along Irving and see if you can sort of find all the mosaics. And anyway, that's a really nice one that I like. And you'll find lots of other art. This is again sort of a more recent thing, that sort of these phone boxes have been repurposed by the Somerville Arts Council to be phone art boxes. And so this one, I forget the name of this, but this is one of the robots by the artist Skunk, as he's known, who also is one of the leaders of the Skull Riders, who are these guys this big group that rides around at night on weekends on missions. Like they consider their bicycles to be starships, basically, and they they go around on these really crazily decorated bikes and so on. Well, actually, you probably heard about them, since I know you know about Artisans Asylum. So
exactly.
That's where they're sort of based out of.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he has, he has this. There's also another larger robot that he has in near Aeronaut. And anyway, so these are just fun. These are just you just sort of come upon these, boxes, and are like, huh, what's in that one? This one's the old, let's see, I think it's the Grimmins School. This one was great. It was basically, this one I came upon, it's just in a playground. It's in the 10 Hills, sort of like the Governor Winthrop near Medford area. That they left this, front of the school, basically the entryway to the Grimmins School. And it was just this wonderful thing. It's like, I'm sort of just going through my map and going, oh, I've listed all the parks. I should at least visit all the parks and just see what's there. And, you go to most parks and, oh yeah, there's a playground. Okay, big deal. It's like, well, there's an arch here. So it's really wonderful to run into this, just really about a month or two ago that I ran into this thing. Yeah, May 28th. So yeah, it's like, oh, what a cool thing. And that's what I really like about this sort of thing, is that just walking around, you'll notice things, and you can put them on your map and so on. But the other thing is that, like I say, people will tell me about things and like, well, there's this thing on the community path that if you look up, I think it's near Willow Street. If you look up, you'll see this apartment complex that's like a birdhouse, but it's not really a birdhouse. It's just meant to be an art piece, but it looks like an apartment complex, and it's up in the tree. And I'm like, I've walked under this tree probably 100 times since that thing's been put up, and I have not looked up. Sure. And so, that's sort of the point, is look around, I mean, there's just stuff that, I'll walk by again and again and again. And then someone will say, did you ever notice there's this? And it's like, oh, well, no, I hadn't actually. Thank you very much. So that's sort of part of the of this map, is not to, it's not to act as a spoiler, but more like you go look and go, huh, there's something out there. I don't know what that is. I'll have to go check it out. This is the one you mentioned. This is whoops. Okay, there we go. Martha Friend's house, which we sort of dubbed it Sapphire City, which basically, sort of Wizard of Oz kind of a thing. And she, it's just a great place, obviously. And there's all kinds of fun other things you can actually, from I think she says from 11 a.m. to dusk, you can kind of walk around the grounds. It's perfectly okay to do so, because there's other little nooks and crannies back here that have cool stuff. And like you mentioned, there's a little micro museum in the front, with changing exhibits.
Definitely well worth visiting for sure.
Yeah, it's yeah. This is one where I actually added the entry to Atlas Obscura, and it took a while. Like, you had to sort of iterate on my entry and so on, and that sort of made me realize, like, Atlas Obscura, it's really cool, but it's kind of limited. They'll just put in a few things, like, a few big pieces. But I was like, oh, that's another inspiration. I could just make my own map. I can I can edit it much faster than I can edit Atlas Obscura's. But anyway, let's see. So other things, yeah, like, there's right. I also have been sort of trying to track historical markers. So this is John Winthrop, first governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, Puritan guy. Marks where his estate was, although the estate was really 600 acres. It was quite a big chunk of Somerville and Medford, a noticeable chunk. And anyway, by, again, sort of putting this on the map, someone said, oh yeah, there's a great book about that called 10 Hills Farm. And 10 Hills Farm, and so I got it out. Actually, I just finished it. It was really interesting. It was about sort of among other things, the sort of history of slavery in Massachusetts. And we don't think of Massachusetts as a real slave state, right? But turns out, no, the Puritans had slaves, and everybody else had slaves until about the 1780s, when it was finally outlawed. And in fact, the interesting thing the book said is that slavery existed longer in Massachusetts than it did in Georgia, because Massachusetts was started much earlier than Georgia. It got rid of slavery earlier, but it had slavery during this time. So it's just like, not a thing to be proud of or anything, but just a bit of history that I knew nothing about. And it was sort of revealed by sort of reading this book, and sort of, just because I put up this marker and someone said, oh, about that marker, there's a book. So anyway, it's just uncovering bits of history kind of thing. This one, I'm not even quite sure what this is. I should ask my Artisans Asylum friends to say exactly what this is. It's some big piece of equipment, but I love that it's just sitting there. It's this is kind of near what is it? School and Summer. I think it's next to what used to be, like, now it's sort of offices and condos or something, but I think it used to be like a switching station for the phone company. And I think it's just some old piece of equipment, but I love that they've left it there because it's just so cool looking. I just love that there's this hunk of interesting, like, this used to do something really serious.
For sure. In addition to suggesting some sites to you, what's been some of the other reaction and feedback from viewers and others who have found out about the Somerville Sights map?
Yeah, it's been, positive, basically. There hasn't been anybody saying, wait, take me off your map, which I'm glad, because if they did, I'd take them off the map. But no, a lot of people, it's, it's been good. It's, someone will say, like, with the K for Kemp's Nuts, they'll go, oh yeah, I used to work at Kemp's Nuts, back in the day, kind of thing. And oh yeah, we used to do da-da-da. And, and it just, I think it brings up memories, and it brings up, just, positive kinds of feelings and so on.
Do you have plans for enhancing, adding to the map?
Do I have what?
Plans for enhancing?
Oh yeah, no, I've got a to-do list that's actually kind of crazy long. It's like there's still, like, through the Somerville Historic Preservation and other things on the Somerville government site, there's a whole bunch of, like, historical walks that I haven't even looked at yet. They're just like, oh my gosh, there's a ton of those. There's actually, again, Somerville Historical Preservation Committee, they had a contest over the past 2 years called I Spy Somerville, which they'd say, okay, go take a picture of some, something like a strange tree in Somerville, or a mansard roofs in Somerville, or whatever, just, some obscure thing, and people would go out and take pictures and upload them and so on. And so I just ran across that map like last week. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's this map been all my life? Because it's, sort of a similar kind of thing where there's just all these interesting pictures of odd little details of Somerville. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I have now, another 200 things to check out. So, I'm busy for a while. There's sort of a surprising amount. I mean, this is, like I say, this map is kind of silly in a certain way. It's got too many details. It's got too much stuff in a certain kind of way. But I don't care. I think you can put 1,500 items on a map, and I'm nowhere near that. So I'm happy to keep plugging on and just record it as just sort of an enjoyable activity. And, and like I say, it makes other people, it reminds them of things, or maybe I figure for every person that writes me, there's probably 25 others that have clicked on something and gone, oh yeah, that reminds me of this cool thing or whatever. That, and so I like to think that kind of good feeling is out there.
Most definitely. When you think back from when you first got this idea and started to where you are now with the project, what are some of your thoughts and reflections?
Just over the time of this project?
Are you surprised with how it's developed and the feedback that you've gotten?
Yeah, no, in a way, I feel like this is my turn in a sense. I think on the greater historical scale, I think it's I think like how long really. I mean, this is a really historic part of the country in the sense from the 1600s on. Things have been going on, and there's all kinds of little artifacts, great and small, left from that, left from the various eras, and I'm sort of like, well, in 2023, I made this map, and maybe I continue it on for a while, but I figured, good, well, that's fine. In 12 years, someone else will make a map, and in 12 years after that, and after that, and after that, and I'm doing my tiny little bit of trying to, sort of raise awareness or whatever and get people out walking or whatever. But it's just sort of for me, it's just like, oh, this is just my little moment, my little, my little contribution to the cause or something, or, to try to help people understand sort of what they're seeing and, the sort of deep richness of how much time there is essentially that's been, that we've been around, and that, prior to this, that Indians have been around, and who's been before that, and whatever's gone on a glacial level, and on just a geographic level of how did this form, why do we have 10 hills, or why do we have 7 hills, on and on. So anyway, this is just my little pinprick of like, oh, here, this is this fun little thing. I hope people enjoy it, and I hope someone builds the next thing off mine, 15 years from now or 20 years from now, when we all have, augmented reality glasses or whatever, and we can pop up information. Well, great, do it. I'm all for it. It's very much I don't put any rights on this. I've been meaning to put it in Creative Commons. Actually, I got to find the right Creative Commons thing, but, please build off it. That's kind of the joy of it, is just trying to add to the little bit of information of it, make it easier for people to get out there.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, given the output and the feedback, the participation in the site, you're definitely providing a much interesting service, and definitely appreciated by people in Somerville and beyond, for sure. So thank you so much for taking this initiative, for sharing it with us, and for continuing to add to it in the years to come. Look forward to accessing it and exploring Somerville.
Sure. And thanks for giving me the chance to talk about it a bit. This is fun.
Wonderful. Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.